All right, welcome back to another episode of Financial Revolution Radio. I'm your host, Jaden Sterling. So much to talk about today. Today is Monday, July 13th. Let's dive into what is going on in the markets and how I can assist you to navigate this time. Let's face it, it is so confusing out there with this investment environment. It simply doesn't make sense. It's like the economy is doing awful, and yet the stock market keeps going up and up and up. Let's help you make sense of this. In order to do so, we need to dive into some headlines here. Folks, money is going away. That is clear. All the signs are indicating whoever the powers to be, whoever they are, they want cash gone. Kroger stops giving coin change as coronavirus drives the shortage. That is the narrative that is being played out in this economy that's continuing to be spread, that this virus stays on currency. That is not the case at all. That has never been proven. However, this is becoming an issue, and it's an perfect excuse to eliminate coins, to eliminate cash. And, we're going to go to definitely a digital currency environment. We're going to start to see that. We were indoctrinated into digital currency when Bitcoin came in. That was their strategy to get people used to dealing with a digital currency, used to buying and selling things with, it started with Bitcoin. We don't know yet what it's going to end up being. What we do know with digital currency is that it's going to be implemented from some type of financial institution. Chances are good it's going to come from the Federal Reserve. It will be overseen by the Federal Reserve. So, I'm just saying, get ready for this, mentally prepare for this. And I was talking to a good friend last week, and we were saying, this will be so devastating to so many industries in the economy. The only industry that we could come up with that it would be helpful for is the cannabis industry, right? Because it's going to wipe away the black market, because that's always been dealt with cash. So this is something that is definitely coming down for us to, that we just gotta, we really have to prepare for. So Kroger is halting the use of coin change at its stores in response to a shortage caused by the pandemic. That's the narrative, that there's this shortage in cash and currency. We know there isn't. We know there's plenty of coins and cash that continue to be minted and printed. Now, they did stop minting coins back in February when this whole narrative was launched about this COVID situation. So that was done early on. And the idea was, that the fear was, and the fear mongering was around that the virus can live on currency. It can live on physical things like metals and coins, which we've learned later to find out that it doesn't. That's not the case at all. But that's what was told to us. And that was the reason for the lack of minting of coins. So let's continue to read. The Federal Reserve said last month that the pandemic has significantly disrupted the supply chain and normal circulation patterns for U.S. coins. Well, yeah, because the Fed stopped minting coins. That is what was the significant disruptor in terms of coins. I mean, this stuff is mind-boggling when you read it, because everything is based on this lie of the COVID situation. So let's continue to read. What's happened is that with the partial closure of the economy, the flow of coins through the economy has gotten all its the flow of coins through the economy has gotten all it's kind of stopped. Okay, whatever. These people have a hard time speaking intelligently. Jerome Powell said during a virtual hearing with the White House Finance Services Committee on June 17th, the places where you go to give your coins and get credit at the store and get cash, folding money, those have not been working. Stores have been closed. The whole system has kind of had to come to a stop. Okay. There you go. That's the narrative. They are working. The Federal Reserve said in a statement that it is working with the U.S. Mint and Reserve banks to address the issue through a strategic allocation of coin inventories to evenly distribute coins across banks and credit unions. Powell noted that the Federal Reserve expects the coin shortage to be a temporary issue as the country reopens and more Americans begin to spend again. So there's our hopium, right? They're always giving us this hopium that, it's a temporary thing. It's a temporary issue. And if you've been following this pandemic closely enough, we know that there's nothing temporary about this. We've been indoctrinated into and told again and again that it's a new normal, that they're working toward eliminating cash from societies and in order to distribute this digital currency. And God only knows how we're going to be able to have access to that. Of course, it seems like the narrative is going to be around some type of forced vaccination, at the minimum testing, right? Testing for this thing, and then a vaccine in order to participate in this economy that is being built around a digital currency. So super easy to see what is going on here and eventually going to be eliminating cash. And it could take some time though. Although this whole thing has been sped up and things are happening very, very quickly. So just know that this has already been thought about. The more research you do, it can show clearly that this has been in the works since 1974. That's when the Bilderberger Society met and initiated and came up with this plan that is also being referred to as Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. So if you want to do your own independent research, which I highly recommend because that's what financial revolutionists do, right? They do their own research. They just don't buy into what lamestream media is saying about the economy and whatever. They're not buying hook, line, and sinker the narrative that the Federal Reserve and the elites are spinning on this. So do your homework. If you want more information about this, look into Agenda 21, Agenda 30. It's all there. It's clearly laid out in terms of what's happening. So let's keep going. As I mentioned, money, meat are gone, right? Kroger finds plant-based meat sells better next to real meat. Really, does it? Okay, so if you're got your Beyond Meat, your Impossible Foods, there's some other companies. If you're in Canada, you'll want to actually look at this company called the Very Good Food Company. It actively trades, just started trading in the market 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's about $1.60 or so a share. If you want to make money in this market, you have to buy industries and companies that are complicit with this entire global takeover. That's exactly what's gone on. Let's call this what it is. And part of the agenda, as I mentioned, outlined in Agenda 21 and 30, is the removal of real meat. They're making it harder and harder, right? The abattoirs are being closed down. The slaughterhouses, all these things are being shut down intentionally and forcing us into, for those who are meat eaters, forcing you into a plant-based, modified meat system. Kroger is beefing up its meats aisle with plant-based alternatives. The country's largest grocery retailer found that plant-based meat sales surged 23% when sold in the meat department, according to a study released Thursday by the Plant-Based Foods Association in partnership with the supermarket chain. In the study, which ran for 12 weeks between December 29 and February 2020, and y'all don't be surprised when you hear who the main investors are in Beyond the Meat. Bill Gates and, ready for this? The CEO of Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson. So you have some heavy hitters investing a lot of money in these companies. And, we have to really be aware of what is going on. Why are they pushing these meat-based alternatives? Because they simply don't want the cows. They don't want animals, right? The reports that came out in January and February and March of all of the chickens that were killed, and they're saying the narrative now is that these animals spread diseases. So in the study, which ran for 12 weeks between December 2019 and February 2020, plant-based meats such as Beyond Meat Burger or Impossible Foods alternative meat varieties were placed in the meat department at 60 test stores across the states, Colorado, Indiana, and Illinois. The study also found that plant-based meat sales rose 32% during the test period in the Midwest region, where more flexitarian eaters are emerging. And in Denver, which already had a high number of plant-based eaters, the test showed plant-based meat sales surged 13%. So you have to know, with these kind of returns and numbers, this is only going to continue to drive the narrative that this stuff sells. And what do grocery stores want? They want sales, right? Every business does. Meat alternatives that are vegan and vegetarian have been, for the most part, sold separately from meat products, and meat purveyors have had beef with plant-based producers labeling their products as beef or meat. Some states have imposed stricter food labeling laws that side with the animal agriculture industry in recent years. Arkansas lawmakers created a food labeling law in 2019 that forbids companies like Tofurkey from out of the states in the Gorge area, right? They're a large company based in that area. From using meat names like burgers and sausages if the product isn't actually made from animal products. However, a federal judge in Arkansas halted the law on the basis of violating the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. So there you go. The most confusing part of all this is the labeling. It's not clear how much is genetically modified, if it's even good for you. I think we're really leaning more and going in toward a plant-based society, right? Plant-based eating. It goes on to say retail sales for plant-based foods in the U.S. excuse me, have increased by 11% compared to last year, according to the latest data from Plant-Based Foods Association and the nonprofit Good Food Institute. This research proves that it is important for retailers to place plant-based meat where shoppers expect to find it, in the meat department. Other retailers are sure to make this change with this new idea and new data in hand. So clearly, this is a trend that is here to stay. Get used to it, because eventually, if you noticed, in February, March of this year, 2020, the price of meat has gone up because they said, well, there's less supply. So of course, the increase would continue, or the prices would increase. You've seen that if you're a meat eater and if that's what you're buying from the grocery stores. So now what's coming out is they're saying, basically, look, we've got this alternative for you, this meat option alternative that you can buy, and they're doing their best to keep the prices low, right? Beyond Meat announced lowering their prices so they can get into a price point that people are comfortable buying. So this is here to stay. Meat, as we've known it for all of our lives, will forever be changed. They are eliminating, like I said in the title of this video, money, meat, and more. And so much more is to come in terms of our comfortability and what we like. Now, let's get into this week. Starts earnings week, and here is a copy of Barron's today. I just want to go through some of these headlines because this is really revealing in terms of where the industry is going, and in certain industries in particular. Now look at this first page. Look at these 8 articles or so. Apple shares inch toward $400. So we are seeing incredible skyrocketing of prices of companies that I call complicit in this entire pandemic, companies that are a part of, and it's right here in your face. Apple is in charge of surveillance, right, by the phone app. If you whether you know it or not, the last time you updated or didn't update your Apple phone, because I stay away from updates, and now all of a sudden I have this I know I can't say COVID 19 tracking app now on my phone. I didn't click any buttons. I didn't add that. If anything, I'm doing my best to stay away from all that stuff. And sure enough, it pops up on my phone. Therefore, the stock inches close to $400. Pepsi has always been a company, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, they've always been complicit in poisoning the world with their crappy products. If you're a soda drinker, just stop drinking it. I mean, I don't know how, for decades I've been begging people, stop drinking this garbage. It's the worst ever for your health. And yet people keep drinking it because it's cheap and it tastes good. But they're not really looking at, anyway, this is not a whole conversation around, around Pepsi and Coca-Cola and how awful it is for your health. But let's take a look. The stock climbs on earnings. Consumers are snacking more and eating at home. The food and beverage company said it will return some $7.5 billion to shareholders via stock buybacks and dividends. So that's another trend that is taking place. We're eliminating meat. They're eliminating money and eliminating stocks that trade on exchanges. Buybacks have increased now more than ever in the markets. Interesting, it started in March of this year when the market was down 35%. What a surprise. Companies went full on in, started buying back their shares. Apple was one of the biggest purchasers of their shares. So eventually what we're going to start to see is less publicly traded companies that you're able to buy, because these companies are starting to buy back their shares, take them off the market for people to buy. Then they're not beholden to shareholders. They can run their own business, do their own thing in what we're leading toward, which is a technocracy. Technocracy is simply a society that is ruled by experts in their field. That's technocracy. And there's a little more to it. You may want to look it up, because that's exactly what what's staring down the barrel at us is technocracy. Experts in the field. That's why Bill Gates, you're starting to see him out more and more in the forefront, talking about healthcare when, and vaccines, when his computers are some of the worst at getting viruses. It simply makes no sense. Moderna, there we go. A biotech company jumps on optimism. Woohoo, look at that. Isn't that great? This COVID-19 vaccine. Yay. Oh, it's such garbage. But there are many people who believe in this, so I have to respect and honor if you're one of them. But I would suggest before you let them give you that little vaccine there, you do some homework and research to make sure that really it's going to be okay for you, because if you look at what's in it, it may not be. But I digress. So why Amazon, Walmart, and Target can all win as e-commerce soars. Whew, I tell you, it just gets thicker and deeper and thicker. All these companies, I'm showing you the headlines, folks, of stocks to buy shares of. It's all right here. Barron's, it's telling you Apple, Pepsi, Moderna, Amazon, Walmart, Target, all of these companies, Netflix market value hits $250 billion. Why? Because they've added approximately 15.8 million subscribers in the last quarter. The market was only looking for 8 million more. They practically doubled it. So these companies are coming out. They've been, look, Tesla stock, here's another one. Stock's valuation tops 300 billion. And it makes sense. Really? Does it make sense? I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense. When you get to this level where the stock climbs at least between anywhere from $80 to $200 a share a day. That's the stock going up for the previous 30 trading days. We're looking at Tesla stock at about $1,400 or $1,500 a share. Clearly, they're complicit. They're a part of this next leg of this strategy, which look up Agenda 21 and 30. It will tell you exactly what companies to buy in: solar, AI, VR, right? Virtual reality, AI is completely in charge of this market. Everything is being run by AI because these stock valuations make 0 sense. But it's all here for you, all here for you. And in order to participate in this market, we got to start really looking at shares of companies that are complicit with this entire global pandemic takeover. And then when you start to align your thinking with that and you start to open your eyes a little bit and see, wow, okay, there's a lot going on here. And yes, it is confusing because like I mentioned earlier on this session, that the economy sucks. I mean, you have almost 40 million Americans unemployed. 40 million unemployed. And yet this market goes higher and higher. So what does make sense? Silver. Silver offers don't you love these headlines? Silver offers a golden opportunity to preserve soon to be destroyed value. Look at this chart. It says it right here. This peak, it shows the peak in the market, which is right now, right around 2020 here. And it's talking about a multi-year rally going up for the price of silver. So essentially what they're saying, as the market peaks, silver has dropped off a bit or flatlined right here. And the next move up is up, in fact. So get your silver while you can at decent prices. The fundamentals, it says here, the fundamentals of silver and gold are very strong. And with all the massive bailouts and stimulus, which have increased debt levels, they are just getting stronger. Remember, we don't have an equity society. There is no equity here. We have a debt-based system. As more money is printed, more debt is brought on. The bond market is about 10 times larger than the equity markets. And it's done so intentionally so that there is nothing behind. Remember when they removed the gold standard from the US dollar? I believe it was the same time, 1974, when the Bilderberg Society met. This all happened simultaneously. Essentially what happened was it meant that money has nothing backing it. They called it the petrodollar, that petrol would be backing the US dollar. But now that several companies have moved away from that standard and have said, no, we're not going to be backing the US dollar with our oil. We choose, and those were Russia and China, not small buyers by any means, massive countries with their own ideas of how they would buy and sell oil. When that happened, we also saw a collapse this year, actually, April of 2020, the collapse of the oil price. Remember when it went into negative territory? The oil's future contracts for May went negative. And it was like, oh my God, the sky's falling. What's going to happen here? Well, the reality was the pricing from those May contracts rolled into June contracts. So oil stabilized the next trading day and bounced right back off that low, that negative territory. But I think it was significant what happened with that. When I looked at that situation, it occurred to me that that was the collapse in the oil market, and it may never fully return again. So we have to look at other alternatives to that. And we see the market doing that. And when you do that, you got to look right into precious metals. Silver and gold, my friends, silver and gold. Until a significant portion of these debts is repaid or defaulted on, it would be foolish to talk about a top in precious metals. Exactly. The repayment of debt or default on debt, which is more likely, notice what they're saying here, the repayment of debt, because now the United States is 27, that's what they tell us, $27 trillion in debt. I think the numbers are more like $127 trillion. We're only told so much information. And that debt has to be repaid at some point. And what are you going to see? You're going to see a rise in your property taxes. You're going to see a rise in your federal taxes and state taxes that you pay. It only makes sense. This is being absolutely set up for this type of situation. So let's continue to read. The repayment of debt, and this is right from Zero Hedge, the repayment of debt or default on debt, which I agree with, which is more likely, will result in significantly reduced economic activity. Significantly reduced economic activity will have a negative effect on the stock market, which in this case will likely result in a huge crash. For now, the stock market is defying the reality of the bleak economic outlook, but not for long. That's been saying that all along. In these conditions, a deflating debt bubble that will drive gold and silver prices significantly higher. I agree. You got to have some type of hedge against this market. There's only a few hedges that are available to you. It's commodities, natural resources like gold and silver. So in order to buy those, you can either buy the physical, like an actual gold coin or silver coin, or you can invest in companies that that is their primary source of business, are silver and gold, either mining companies, which is probably one of the best places to go to. If you're curious about which companies to look at, go ahead, head on over to our sterlingstockpicker.com. That's just like it sounds, Sterling, Sterling, stockpicker.com. And we have there many amazing opportunities for you to find winning stocks. That's essentially what we have created here. When you connect into the page, you see this, and we're offering a 21-day free trial. 21 days, doesn't cost you a penny. After that, it's like only $30 a month. And you're literally 2 clicks away from winning stocks. These will give you, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different options on that software to find some amazing companies for you to invest in, particularly right now, gold and silver. So head on over to sterlingstockpicker.com, grab your free 21-day trial, and you can see for yourself. It's amazing, simple to use. Whether you're a novice investor or an expert investor, you will find incredible companies that you can buy in today's market in order to really become a financial revolutionist, someone who's not following the herd and someone who is doing things vastly different than most people do. That's our promise to you on this show, the Financial Revolution Radio, that we empower one investor at a time to take control of their money and their finances, invest in a way that will afford you the opportunity to live truly the golden years in comfort and enjoyment. There's no reason to worry about money. You're not here to worry about money. Life is so much richer than that. So thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Financial Revolution Radio. Follow us on all the platforms. We're on Twitter and Stitcher and iHeartRadio and iTunes Radio. We're all over the place. Please share this show with your friends. Mention it to them. We're building an audience of financial revolutionists, one open mind at a time. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.